The stage lights burn into my skin as I stand alone at the podium, my professional smile fixed in place while cameras click and flash. This is it, the Grey media launch, the dream I've carried since I was 12 years old. My heart pounds against my ribcage as I scan the VIP section, 5 empty seats staring back at me. I'd reserved them anyway, had written their names on little cards. Mom, Dad, Everest. Like I believed that somehow this time would be different. Miss Grey, a reporter calls from the front row, notebook poised. Who inspired you to start your company? The question hangs in the air. My throat tightens as I reach for the water glass, buying seconds to compose myself. Around me the ballroom of the Westbrook Hotel waits. 200 industry professionals leaning forward in anticipation. I set the glass down, my fingers trembling slightly against the cool crystal. Maybe I say, my voice softer than intended, came from knowing what it feels like to be forgotten. The room falls silent. Cameras click frantically, capturing the moment my carefully constructed facade cracks. I don't cry. I learned long ago that tears accomplish nothing in the Grey household. The memory surfaces unbidden me at 12, cross-legged on my bedroom floor, toy microphone clutched in my hand. I'd saved 3 weeks of allowance for that microphone, a cheap plastic thing with a cord that connected to nothing. But when I spoke into it, I imagined my voice traveling to people who wanted to hear it. And, in breaking news, I whispered to my audience of stuffed animals arranged in rows. Soraya Gray reports that dreams come true if you work hard enough. The sound of cheering erupted from the living room downstairs, my father's booming voice cutting through the walls. Did you see that catch? That's my boy. That's a Grey man right there. Football highlights again. Everest's sophomore year game against Central High played on our TV at least twice a week. I pressed the microphone closer to my lips, raising my voice just a little, determined to finish my imaginary broadcast. My bedroom door cracked open. Mom poked her head in, finger pressed to her lips. Honey, could you quiet down? Your brother's highlights are on, and your father's trying to focus. I lowered the microphone. But I was just, I know, sweetie. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Maybe later, okay? You know how important these game films are. The door closed with a soft click. Later never came. It never did in our house. Everest games. Everest trophies. Everest's future. These formed the foundation of Grey family conversations. A son carries the Grey family name. Dad reminded me once when I asked why he never came to my school speech competition. He'd ruffled my hair like I was still 5 instead of 14. Your brother's got real pressure on him, Soraya. You're the lucky one. Lucky. I roll the word around in my memory as I stand on this stage 6 years after college, watching the reporters scribble my quote about being forgotten. The irony doesn't escape me. I learned to record in whispers after that day when I was 12. Learned to dream quietly. To speak softly into that toy microphone long after it broke. The plastic cracked, but my initials still carved into the side. I'd imagine listeners somewhere who leaned in close because they wanted to hear what Soraya Gray had to say. If I achieved enough, they would notice. If I became exceptional enough, even the Gray household would have to acknowledge me. I believed this with the fervent faith of a child, then a teenager, then a young woman. Understanding their dismissal meant it hurt less, I told myself. Being the daughter who understood while Everest demanded this became my identity, my cross to bear. Senior year of high school, I sat at our kitchen table with college brochures spread before me, Northwestern's prestigious journalism program circled in red. Dad, I want to apply here. They have the best broadcasting program in the country. He barely glanced up from his coffee. That won't put food on the table, sweetheart. What about something practical? Business, maybe. Your father's right. Mom added, patting my hand. Those communication degrees are, well, they're hobbies, really. Maybe something more practical, honey. I applied anyway. Got accepted with a partial scholarship. Watched my parents drive Everest to Arizona State for his full-ride football orientation. Boxes packed, everything new. We'll contribute what we can. Dad had told him, but with your scholarship, you shouldn't need much. My partial scholarship left a gap of $20,000. When I showed them the numbers, Dad's face clouded. That's a lot of money for a degree that might not lead anywhere, Soraya. I ended up at community college, working night shifts at the campus coffee shop, recording my first podcast on equipment I bought piece by piece from pawn shops. That night after registration, I sat on my bed and whispered into my new second-hand microphone, testing the sound levels. My voice was stronger than it had been at 12, less hopeful perhaps, but more determined. If no one will listen to me, I said to the empty room, I'll find those who will. 6 years and 50 million monthly listeners later, I stand on this stage, scanning those empty seats one last time before I continue my launch speech. The words form in my throat, solid and sure, rising from that whisper in my childhood bedroom to fill this crowded ballroom. They didn't come, but everyone else did. That night, the steam rises from the industrial espresso machine as I pull another shot, my third double of the night. The clock above the counter reads 2:17 a.m. 3 more hours before I can lock up the grind and shuffle home to edit tonight's podcast episode. Another all-nighter, Gray. Marissa, the owner, leans against the counter, counting the day's tips. Her gray hair catches the low light as she divides the bills into neat stacks. 500,000 listeners don't record themselves. The pride in my voice still feels strange, foreign like clothing I haven't broken in yet. Marissa whistles low. 500,000, huh? Your folks must be busting buttons. My hands freeze over the portafilter. They don't actually know. What do you mean they don't know? 500,000 people listen to your voice every week, and your own parents aren't among them. I shrug, tamping the coffee grounds with practice precision. They're busy. Everest senior season at Arizona State. Every weekend they drive the 3 hours to Phoenix for his games. What I don't tell her, they visited my apartment exactly once in 2 years. Dad spent 20 minutes examining my building's security features, while Mom fussed over the milk in my refrigerator. They declined my offer to show them my makeshift studio in the spare bedroom, just a closet with foam panels stapled to the walls and a microphone stand I assembled from hardware store parts. Last week, I sent them the link to the episode that hit the charts. I concentrate on the coffee dripping into the cup. Mom texted back, "That's nice, honey," 3 days later. No indication she'd listened. Marissa's hand settles on my shoulder. "They're lost, kid." The bell above the door jingles as a customer enters. The conversation ends there, but her words linger in my mind as I finish my shift. 3 weeks later, I'm driving the family sedan along the familiar route to my childhood home for Thanksgiving. Desert stretches on both sides of the highway. The November chill barely touching the Arizona landscape. My fingers tighten on the steering wheel as a billboard for Arizona State football appears, my brother's number 84 prominently displayed. The gray family driveway is crowded with cars when I arrive. Extended family already inside. The scent of turkey and sage greeting me as I push open the front door with my overnight bag. There she is. Uncle Richard booms from the living room. A career gal. Still doing that little radio thing. Podcast. I correct automatically. Yes. Dad appears from the kitchen, beer in hand, clapping me on the shoulder. She's got a few listeners now. Hobby's taking off a bit, isn't it, Soraya? Few listeners. Last week, 513,942 downloads in a single day. Where's Mom? Ask, setting my bag down. Stairs. Go say hello. I climb the familiar stairs, passing framed photos of Everest in various football poses through the years. My own graduation photo hangs at the end, smaller, tilted slightly as if hung as an afterthought. I push open my bedroom door and stop cold. The room is unrecognizable. My twin bed gone, replaced by glass display cases filled with trophies. Shelves line the walls, holding footballs with signatures and game dates. Framed newspaper clippings cover the space where my bookshelf once stood. My mother stands in the center, dusting a particularly large trophy. Mom. He turns, startled. Oh, Soraya, honey. I didn't hear you come in. Her eyes flick nervously around the room. We've been meaning to tell you. With Everest possibly going pro, We needed someplace to display all his accomplishments properly. My throat tightens. Where's my stuff? In the garage, boxed up nice and neat. She brushes her hands on her apron. We figured since you've got your own place now. I scan the walls for any trace of me. The spelling bee certificates. My high school journalism awards. The framed cover of the university paper's issue I'd edited. Nothing remains. You could have asked. Well, you're never home. Always working at that coffee shop. Always recording your little stories. He pats my arm. Come help with the stuffing. Everyone's waiting. Downstairs, Everest holds court in the living room, regaling cousins with tales of college glory. He barely acknowledges my presence with a nod before continuing his story about a game-winning catch. Later, as we gather around the dining table, Dad raises his glass. To Everest, with NFL scouts watching his every move. Soon we'll have a real Gray legacy to be proud of. Glasses clink. My water glass remains on the table, untouched. After dinner, I escape to the garage, finding cardboard boxes labeled Soraya stacked haphazardly beside old paint cans. I dig through one, finding my childhood journals and carefully preserved awards, now creased and bent. My phone buzzes in my pocket. An email from Western Media Group, the podcast network that's been courting me for months. They're ready to offer a distribution deal that would expand my reach exponentially. The catch. They need financial references and a co-signer for the office space lease. I return to the house, finding Dad alone in the kitchen. Dad, I need to talk to you about something. He looks up from loading the dishwasher. Make it quick. Highlights coming on. I explain the opportunity, the biggest of my career, and the requirement for financial reference. His expression darkens with each word. So, you want me to stake my credit on this podcast thing? Soraya, those internet radio shows are just hobbies. What happens when this falls through and I'm on the hook? It won't fall through. I have 500,000 listeners. This is my chance to. Your brother has NFL scouts at every game. That's real opportunity. This internet stuff. He shakes his head. It's not stable. My hands curl into fists at my sides. I'm asking for a signature, not money. And I'm saying no. When you have a real job with real prospects, then we can talk. He turns away, conversation over. That night, in my old bedroom now transformed into a shrine to my brother, I sit cross-legged on the floor between display cases. I record a raw, unfiltered episode on my phone that I never intend to publish. This is what invisibility sounds like. I whisper into the microphone, this is what it feels like when the people who should see you most clearly don't see you at all. Tears slide down my cheeks, but my voice remains steady. They're never going to see me unless I force them to look. In my apartment the next night, I methodically remove family photos from my desk, placing them in a drawer. I sign the Western Media contract with only my name on the dotted line, betting everything on my own signature. Professor Williams from the community college calls the following week. Having heard about my contract. I knew you had something special, she says. Your voice has always carried truth. Marissa offers the coffee shop's back room for recording after hours, rent-free until you get on your feet. Trent Daniels, a tech entrepreneur who discovered my podcast through a friend, emails about investing in my vision for a network of female-focused shows. Your authenticity is rare, he writes. I want to help amplify it. The night I sign my first major advertising deal alone, I sit in my apartment surrounded by contracts, my name the only signature on every page. The broken toy microphone from my childhood sits on my desk, a reminder of the whispers that became shouts. For the first time, I don't feel the weight of my family's indifference crushing my chest. I breathe fully, deeply, freely. They may never see me, but everyone else will. A week later, the champagne glasses clink around my parents' dining table, a sound that followed every major Gray family announcement since I was old enough to remember. Dad stands, his chest puffed with pride, gripping his glass as if it might float away with all his excitement. To Everest, he announces, his voice booming across the room. Finally, a Gray making headlines. NFL tryouts next month, can you believe it? 28 pairs of eyes turn toward my brother, who beams with practiced humility. Mom dabs at tears while Uncle Frank claps Everest on the back so hard his wine sloshes dangerously close to Grandma's lace tablecloth. I smile and nod, my own glass barely touched. Nobody notices my phone vibrating in my pocket. My producer with news that my podcast just hit 1 million monthly listeners. The milestone I've worked toward for years arrives in the same moment everyone toasts my brother's potential career. Later, Mom finds me in the kitchen, loading the dishwasher while everyone fawns over Everest's college highlight reel in the living room. "Honey, would you mind not mentioning your work tonight?" She places a stack of dessert plates beside me. "Your brother needs this spotlight right now." The scouts are still on the fence. I arrange the silverware with mechanical precision. "When exactly is my turn for the spotlight, Mom?" She sighs, the sound of a woman who's mastered the art of gentle dismissal. "You know how your father feels about real careers versus hobbies." The word stings like she's slapped me. 1 million listeners. $200,000 in advertising revenue last quarter. Hobby. Right, I say. The word clipped short. Aunt Patty corners me before dessert, her bifocals slipping down her nose as she peers at me. "How's your little radio show going, dear?" "Podcast." Correct her. "The same way I have 6 times before. And it's going well. We just hit. Did you hear Everest might sign with the Cowboys?" She interrupts, already turning toward the living room. Your father's beside himself. 2 weeks later I stand in my apartment, staring at the press release draft on my laptop. Gray Media, my own company at 24. 5 shows under my production umbrella, studio space leased in downtown LA. And 15 employees counting on me. The launch event is set for next Thursday at the Westbrook Hotel. 300 industry professionals have RSVP'd. I need my parents there, not for financial backing, not anymore, but because some childish part of me still believes they'll finally see me. I type the email with shaking fingers. "Mom and Dad, I'm launching Gray Media next Thursday at 7 p.m., Westbrook Hotel Ballroom. It's the most important day of my life. Please come. Love, Soraya." I check my phone hourly for 6 days. The morning of the launch, a text finally arrives. "Sorry, honey. Everest's playoff game tonight. Your father says to tell you good luck with your thing. Love you." I read it 3 times before setting my phone face down on the bathroom counter. The mirror reflects a woman in a tailored gray suit, eyes bright with unshed tears. I blink them back, apply another coat of mascara, and practice my speech again. The ballroom glitters with industry elites when I take the stage that evening. 5 empty chairs stare back from the front row, each bearing a small reserved card with a name. Mom, Dad, Everest, Aunt Patty, Uncle Frank. I swallow hard as the spotlight finds me. "Thank you all for coming tonight," I begin, my voice steadier than my heartbeat. Gray Media represents a new vision for digital storytelling. The speech flows easily until a reporter from the LA Times raises his hand during the Q&A. "Miss Gray," he asks, "who inspired you to start your company?" The question hits like a punch to the sternum. I glance at those empty chairs, then back at the waiting crowd. "Maybe," I say softly, "it came from knowing what it feels like to be forgotten." A hush falls over the room. Cameras click frantically. I see recognition in the eyes of the women watching me, daughters who understand what it means to be overlooked. My phone rings at 11:42 that night as I kick off my heels in my hotel room. Dad's number flashes on the screen. "Are you trying to embarrass us?" His voice thunders through the speaker without greeting. "Your little comment is all over Twitter. Your brother's teammates are asking questions." "Which comment, Dad?" My voice remains steady, surprising me. "That nonsense about being forgotten, like we haven't supported you your whole life." I sit on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted by the weight of pretending. "If you feel embarrassed, maybe there's a reason. You think anyone cares about your little shows?" His voice turns dismissive. "This isn't football, Soraya. This isn't real." Quote. "Millions do," I reply, the truth straightening my spine. "Just not you." The line goes silent for 3 heartbeats. "Your mother's upset," he says finally. By morning the clip has gone viral. "Female entrepreneur speaks truth about family dynamics," reads one headline. My inbox floods with messages from women sharing similar stories. My business partners gather in my office the following Monday, concern etched on their faces. The board is worried about the personal angle. Mark begins, but Lucia cuts him off. They're wrong, she says firmly. Your honesty is your strongest asset, Soraya. The numbers prove it. She's right. Subscriber counts have doubled overnight. 3 major platforms have reached out with partnership offers. The Women's Media Alliance wants me to keynote their conference. For the first time, I understand the power in my voice, not despite being forgotten, but because of it. 6 months later, I stand in my apartment, staring at the Forbes magazine on my coffee table. 30 under 30 blazes across the cover. My photo takes up a quarter of page 18. Self-made media entrepreneur, Soraya Gray, revolutionizes podcasting. Reads the caption beneath a shot of me alone in my downtown LA apartment, surrounded by recording equipment. My phone chimes with an email notification from dgray@hotmail.com. Subject: we saw your interview with Terry Gross. My heart stutters as I open it. Soraya, your mother and I listened to your Fresh Air interview yesterday. You spoke well. We're proud to see a Gray making such an impression in the business world. Warmth blooms in my chest. Finally, after all these years, they see me. Then I read the last paragraph. On a personal note, Everest is going through a tough time after being cut from training camp. His son's private school tuition is due, and he could use some support, about $3,000 monthly, until he lands on his feet. Since you're doing so well now, family should help family, right? The warmth collapses into a cold, hard knot. I close the email without replying and turn the magazine face down on the table. Some things never change, but I have. The email from my father glows on my laptop screen at 2 a.m. Its timestamp mocking me. 3 years of silence broken by 23 carefully crafted sentences about family pride, punctuated by a request for $3,000 monthly payments to support Everest. I trace my finger over the screen, feeling nothing but the cool glass beneath my fingertip. The apartment sits quiet around me. My space bought with my success. No football trophies here. Just awards they never acknowledged and books they never believed I'd write. We're so proud of what you've accomplished, my father wrote. Proud. The word sits bitter on my tongue like old coffee. 30 seconds on Google would have shown them my accomplishments years ago, but they waited until Everest needed money. I type my response slowly, weighing each word like currency. Polite acknowledgement of their newfound interest. Brief updates on my upcoming projects. Nothing about money. I sign off with, I'm building something that matters instead of love. The cursor hovers over send. One deep breath. Blick. Within hours, his response arrives, less polished this time. Did you see the part about Everest's situation? 2 more emails follow that evening. 5 the next day. Each one less measured than the last. Desperation seeping through digital cracks. Answer none of them. A week passes. The receptionist's voice crackles through my office intercom. Miss Gray. Your brother is here. My stomach tightens. I stand, smoothing my charcoal pencil skirt with damp palms. Send him in. Everest fills the doorway of my corner office, still carrying himself like the star quarterback. His designer jacket hangs loose around shoulders that once bulldozed defensive linemen. His eyes narrow when he spots the view of downtown Los Angeles behind me. Nice digs, he says without a smile. Must be nice. What can I do for you, Everest? I gesture toward the chair across from my desk, but he remains standing. Dad's emails. You've been ignoring them. I responded to his first one. Not about what matters. He paces 3 steps, stopping at my bookshelf where my first microphone sits in a glass case. You know I lost my coaching position. Come in. The office beyond my glass walls has gone quiet. My team pretends not to watch, but I feel their attention like a physical presence. I heard. Sorry. Sorry doesn't pay bills. His voice rises. You've got millions of listeners while my son eats instant noodles. What kind of aunt does that make you? The word aunt lands like a slap. Everest has a 9-year-old I've met exactly twice. Both times he was too busy talking football with Dad to introduce us properly. You haven't called me his aunt since he was born. The words escape before I can catch them. This isn't about that. He slams his palm against my desk. This is about family. About helping each other when times get tough. When times got tough for me, where were you? My voice remains even practiced. When I worked night shifts for college. When I launched Grey Media alone. That's different. How? Just is. He falters. A girl. I finish for him. Just the daughter. Heads turn in the office beyond. I've raised my voice without meaning to. This isn't how I planned this conversation. I take a breath, centering myself. Everest, I built this company while you got full scholarships and NFL tryouts. While Mom and Dad attended every game and missed every milestone in my life. I stand straighter, meeting his gaze. You can apologize, Everest. But don't turn me into your emotional ATM. His face reddens. You've always been jealous. No, I've always been invisible. I walk to the door, opening it. We're done here. That evening, notifications flood my phone. Everest's Instagram post about selfish sisters who forget where they came from has gathered steam. My father's number appears on my screen 7 times. I let each call roll to voicemail. My mother's message arrives just before midnight. Soraya, honey. Family takes care of family. Your father and I gave you everything we could. Her voice cracks. Everest needs your help. He's family. Press delete. By morning, the damage control attempts have begun. A producer I once met at a conference calls, mentioning my father reached out about potential family concerns that might impact my work. 2 advertisers receive similar contacts. My father has dredged up every loose connection to the media industry he can find. My team assembles in the conference room without being asked. Loyalty burns in their eyes like banked fires. They're trying to pressure you through business channels. My head of operations says, sliding a printed list across the table. These are all the inquiries we've received. How do you want us to handle it? My assistant's pen hovers above her notebook. I study their faces, people who chose me, who see my value without blood ties. Tell them all the same thing. Grey Media speaks for itself. Period. My mentor calls from New York that afternoon. Your brother's quite vocal online. Need anything? Just your continued support. You've always had that. Pauses. You know you're doing the right thing, right? Boundaries matter. The validation wraps around me like a shield. Thank you. The office intercom buzzes again 3 days later. Miss Gray, your mother is on line 1. My finger trembles as it hovers over the button. Press it. Mom. Soraya. Her voice sounds smaller than I remember. I wanted to call you myself, not through your father. That's a first. Sighs. I'm sorry we missed your launch. I should have been there. The apology hangs between us. Unexpected and incomplete. Wait. Your father doesn't know I'm calling. She clears her throat. Everest is angry you won't help. And you? I'm trying to understand. Long pause. The things you said in that interview. About being forgotten. Was it really that bad? Question stuns me. 30 years of invisibility and she asks if it was that bad. Do you remember when I was 12 and you told me to be quiet because Dad and Everest were watching football highlights? That's just one time, Soraya. It was every time. Silence stretches across the line. When she speaks again, her voice has hardened. We did our best. Your best was reserved for Everest. I breathe through the tightness in my chest. I have a meeting now, Mom. Am I Dio? After I hang up, my assistant knocks softly. Your cousin Becky called. She said your uncle is asking questions about what really happened. The perfect gray family facade begins to crack. Tiny fissures spreading outward from the pressure point of truth. That night, I stand at my apartment window overlooking the city lights. My phone buzzes with a text from my father. This isn't how Greys behave. I type back the only response that matters. Then I'll be a Grey on my own terms. I block his number before the message delivers. Then my mother's. Then Everest's. One by one I close the digital doors. They only opened when they wanted something from me. The silence that follows feels nothing like emptiness. Sounds exactly like freedom. The email arrives at 2:17 a.m. a week later. My computer screen illuminates the darkness of my bedroom like a beacon, drawing me from the edge of sleep. Dad's name appears in bold text, followed by the subject line, "Your nephew misses his aunt." I stare at the ceiling, counting my breaths. 1 Mississippi. 2 Mississippi. My therapist calls this a grounding technique. I call it surviving my family. When my pulse steadies, I open the message. "Soraya, your mother and I were hoping you might join us for dinner next Sunday. Everest is going through a rough patch with a divorce. His son asks about you. Don't you think you should set a good example as his aunt? Family takes care of family. You remember how we sacrificed for you." The laugh that escapes me sounds foreign in the quiet apartment. Sacrificed. As if letting me attend community college while buying Everest a new car was some heroic act of parental devotion. I don't reply. 3 more emails arrive by morning. Mother's plea mentions our little boy struggling, conveniently forgetting Everest, is 31. Dad's follow-up reminds me that Gray family values include supporting each other. The final one, from Everest himself, contains a photo of his son holding a football, with the caption, "He wants to meet his successful aunt." The manipulation is so transparent it should be laughable. Instead, it squeezes my chest like a vice. My phone rings during the morning production meeting. Terry Jennings, my top interviewer, raises an eyebrow as I silence it. "Family again?" She asks when the others leave. "They've discovered I have money." I shuffle my notes, avoiding her gaze. "You know, that interview you did last week about family estrangement is trending. People connect with your story." Terry's voice softens. "The press is asking questions about your support system. The industry rumors have already started. 3 separate journalists have emailed questions about why my family never appears at my events. A profile writer asked point-blank about the untold story behind Gray Media. I could tell the truth, I say. The words tasting like possibility. I could tell everyone exactly who they are." Terry touches my arm. "You could, but is that the voice you want the world to hear?" The question follows me home that evening. My apartment, the one I bought without a co-signer, without family help, feels different tonight. Less like a sanctuary and more like a war room. On my desk sits the planner for next week's recording schedule. Tomorrow's slot remains conspicuously empty, reserved for special content. The next evening I power up my microphone. The red recording light blinks, patient and waiting. Unlike my family, it has always been there when I needed it. This is a special episode. I begin, my voice steadier than my hands. Names and identifying details have been changed to protect privacy. I pause, considering what comes next. The temptation to name them burns like acid in my throat, to finally force them to face what they've done. To let millions hear how the great William Gray and his athletic prodigy son treated the daughter who dared to succeed on her own terms. But that would make me exactly what they claim. Bitter and ungrateful. Today, I want to talk about what it means to be the daughter who was always loved last. My voice drops to just above a whisper. The one who learned to dream in silence because her voice wasn't worth hearing. For the next hour I speak without notes. About the 12-year-old girl with a toy microphone. About college applications and converted bedrooms. About launch events with empty seats. Never once do I say my father or my brother. Instead, they become a parent who couldn't see past gender expectations, and a sibling raised to believe the world owed him everything. The power lies in what remains unsaid. In the story itself, achingly familiar to countless women who recognize the pattern. When I finish, I sit in silence for several minutes before pressing publish. The file uploads to our server with a simple title, "The Voice They Ignored." By morning it has 1 million downloads. By evening 5 million. Within 48 hours, 10 million people have heard my story, without hearing my family's names. The first call comes from Dad at work, voice trembling with barely contained fury. "Take it down," he demands. "People know you're talking about us." Am I? To keep my tone conversational. I never mentioned anyone by name. Everyone will assume. Only if it sounds familiar, Dad. The word feels strange in my mouth. Formal and distant. Only if it sounds like something you do. He hangs up. Mother tries next. Tears evident in her wobbling voice. We've always loved you, Soraya. How could you say such hurtful things? I didn't say they were about you, Mom. Her silence confirms everything. Everest texts a single line. Real family wouldn't air dirty laundry. I don't respond to any of them. Within days, national media picks up the story. The untold truth behind Grey Media's founder reads one headline. America's forgotten daughters speak out, declares another. My inbox fills with thousands of letters from women, sharing identical stories of invisibility within their own families. Industry colleagues send quiet messages of support. My staff works with renewed purpose, understanding now the mission behind our network's commitment to amplifying silenced voices. Later, I sit at my desk reviewing the week's analytics. The episode has become our most downloaded content ever. Comments flood our website, each one a variation on the same theme. I thought I was the only one. A notification appears on my screen. My brother has posted on social media. A lengthy screed about ungrateful siblings and the importance of family loyalty. I close the tab without reading past the first sentence. His words no longer matter. Instead, I open a blank document and begin typing a response to one particular email from a 16-year-old girl who wrote, "How do I find my voice when no one in my family wants to hear it?" My answer flows easily now. Not from bitterness or revenge, but from the quiet certainty of someone who finally understands her own worth. Start by whispering, "Right." Then speak a little louder each day. The right people will listen, even if they aren't the ones you were born to. I sign my name and press send, feeling the last chains of obligation fall away. The family who ignored my voice for 28 years can now listen with the rest of the world or not at all. For the first time in my life, their choice doesn't matter anymore. The morning light filters through my apartment windows, casting a golden glow across the wall of awards. 3 years since that viral press conference. 3 years since I blocked their numbers. I trace my fingers across the spines of books, lining my shelves' treasures. I've collected one by one, each a small rebellion against the childhood home where football trophies were the only achievements worth displaying. My downtown LA apartment hums with quiet contentment, a sanctuary built entirely on my terms. Grey Media occupies the top floor of a glass building 6 blocks from here. 15 shows now. 50 million monthly downloads. Numbers that should matter. Yet what strikes me most this morning is the silence, how comfortable it feels after years of striving to be heard. The notification pings. An unfamiliar email address. I almost swipe it away until the subject line catches me. From Everest's son. My coffee cup freezes halfway to my lips. I haven't heard that name spoken aloud in my home for years. Dear Aunt Soraya, the message begins. I'm Tyler. I'm 12 now. I listened to your podcast about invisible daughters. I think I understand why you don't talk to my dad anymore. Our family treated you badly. I want to be different. Could we meet? Just us. My thumb hovers over delete. The Grey family pattern. Reach out only when they need something. But he's 12. Just a boy. I suggest a coffee shop near my office. Public. Brief. Controlled. 2 days later, he sits across from me. All gangly limbs and uncertain smiles. Everest's jawline but softer eyes. He clutches a small box wrapped in what looks like Sunday comics. Dad doesn't know I'm here. He says, pushing the package toward me. Mom helped me find this. She said you might want it back. The paper crinkles beneath my fingers. Inside rests a small plastic microphone, cracked along one side, yellowed tape holding it together. My initials is G, carved into the base with a safety pin during a particularly boring Sunday when everyone else watched football. Where did you find this? My voice catches. Mom found it in Grandpa's garage when they were cleaning. She said it was yours. 20 years collapse. I'm 12 again, whispering stories into this worthless plastic toy, believing someone somewhere would want to hear them. I listen to all your shows, Tyler says, fidgeting with his straw. The one about invisible daughters made me cry. Dad never talks about you. But sometimes I hear him and Grandpa arguing about you when they think I'm playing video games. Something breaks loose inside me. For the first time in years, tears blur my vision. Thank you for bringing this. The words barely squeeze past the tightness in my throat. Could I ask you something? Tyler leans forward. How did you know your voice mattered when nobody listened? The question strikes with such familiar precision that I know instantly this boy carries the Gray family curse of invisibility. Not the golden child. The watcher. Quiet one. I reach across the table, squeezing his hand. I didn't know if it mattered. I just knew I'd disappear completely if I didn't use it. Dad says I should play football. But I'd rather write stories. A confession delivered in a rush. Eyes darting to gauge my reaction. You don't have to be like anyone else, Tyler. Tell him. Just listen. And tell the truth. That's all any voice really needs. His smile breaks like sunrise. Could I learn to record them someday? Like you did. When you're ready. Promise. I'll teach you. Later that evening, I placed the broken microphone on my shelf between my Peabody Award and the Forbes magazine feature. The contrast jolts me, plastic toy beside crystal trophy. Beginning and culmination. I press record on my personal journal. The one show no one else will ever hear. Not every wound needs an apology to heal. I whisper, cradling the microphone in my palm. Sometimes the greatest freedom comes from realizing how strong the silence made you. I pause, remembering Tyler's earnest face. And sometimes healing arrives through the ones who watched and chose to be better. My phone chimes with a voice message from a number I don't recognize. I started recording my own stories, Aunt Soraya. Tyler's voice, clear and hopeful. I smile as I listen. The cycle breaks. Not with a shout but a whisper.